So I know you guys had mentioned the fact that you'd be willing to kind of give us a little tour. Um, would it be okay with you if we did that?
Absolutely.
Okay, we're gonna get jittery for a second as we start moving the camera around.
No problem.
All right. You gonna take them on the tour? I am. Well, okay, let me get my camera here flipped around. If I can figure out how to do that, maybe not. How do I, oh, there. All right. So we're kind of at the center of the top section right here. And please forgive the mess. We're in the middle of a windstorm that we haven't been able to pick up everything from yet. But we'll just start at the top and we'll work our way down. This right here is like our main living area. You can see the house up there in the distance.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see we've been working on the sawmill. We've had a lot of stuff that we wanted to be able to cut and preserve as much of it as we can. And you can see a lot of this isn't good for lumber, but it will be good for firewood. It's something that we can burn to heat and provide energy and art. So this is the house that we're in the middle of building. It's a 16 by 32 3-room cabin. And we're working on the roof right now, as you can see. Still need to get an end wall put up. But we started this right before the freeze in January. And we were able to get the foundation poured. And keep in mind, we have had help from people, but all of this has been done with just tools in our hand. So we poured a foundation all the way around, and we used traditional construction, and we wound up using commercial lumber simply because we ran out of time. We've got to get up here. We've got to get living up here. And we had a couple of friends come down last weekend that helped us with putting up the beams that are going to be supporting our roof. So that's where we are currently on the house project. But yeah, I'll come up here and I'll join Victoria in the house. And this end down here is going to be in our bedroom. And I'm standing in our restroom. And then this is all going to be our living area. And I was talking to you earlier about that 270-degree view. That land down there across the road is ours as well. And I'm sorry for the wind. I'm trying to shield it as much as possible. But that down there is where we're going to be putting our barn and all of our processing. And we're going to have cabins down at the bottom of that. And then down that direction on the other side of the road and then across the next one is another 6 acres of our land, which is where we're going to put like our lodge and our spiritual retreat. And then a pumpkin patch down in the corner.
Yes. Gotta have the pumpkin patch.
So we chose the design of our house so that we would be able to catch as much water as possible. And this goes back to that planning that we were talking about. The more that you plan ahead of time, the easier the projects are going to be when you actually get working on it. But it's a single slope Arizona style roof, 1.5 to 12 pitch, that's going to collect approximately 25,000 gallons of water a year. And it's going to come off of this end, and the totes, that's our pick 'em up truck. Our totes are going to be sitting back over here. At the end of the day, we're going to have a 9 cube of water totes back here. It's going to be 12 by 12 in capacity, 2 totes tall, to store 2,500 or so gallons of water. Now, solar panels are going to go on the roof. We're building structurally to be able to support a solar system on top of that, 6.2 kilowatts with 17.6 kilowatts of battery. Moving on, this is our garden that we're going to have. It's 25 foot by 25 foot. And you can see we've done work in it. We've got a pull a lot of that work out because plans changed. But this is where we're going to be creating our food that is strictly for raising us. We've done the research as to how much water we need at any given time, or I'm sorry, how much food we need, how many plants we need to grow in order to uh, sustain ourselves for an entire year. And we can't do it entirely out of this, but we can come pretty darn close, especially with all the supplemental things such as the chicken and the eggs and ducks and rabbits and such. Yep.
And it seems worth mentioning that we went through the effort of digging out that hole for the garden, partially because we knew that we were going to build the tiny house on that corner, and we needed the beds to be a certain depth, and we needed to be able to shield them, like tent some of them, for bugs, and like the corn and stuff is going to be tall, so we didn't want to block our amazing view. But also wanting to be able to retain as much water as we can, and by digging down into that, there's rock and clay underneath that, and that helps with keeping the water inside the garden.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad she told you that. And I'd forgotten to mention that part of the issue that you're going to have to deal with is your water flow and your land quality, and all of this rock that is piled up in here and laying on the ground. That's stuff that we dug out of just this shallow 2-foot area. We had to rent a backhoe for a weekend to come up here and do it. And so that's just a consideration, because now we can gravity feed from our water storage up at the very top. We've got about 4 feet drop between the edge and here, and the tote sitting up above the ground gives us another, 2, 3, or 4 feet to be able to ensure that we can gravity feed water, which means we don't have to use electricity to pump. So that's a big deal. So all of that planning comes into effect after you get your land and you look at your topography and such. You're going to see where your water is going to flow, where your highest points of sun value are going to be, and where your solar is going to be most effective, where you can put your wind, and all of those factors.
Here's our beautiful sawmill. We have plans to build like a shelter for it so that we can, not use a tarp to protect it from the elements, but also so that we'll have room to, stack all the lumber. And we're going to need electricity and things like that to run some of the tools up here. But we have been able to mill some absolutely gorgeous pieces of lumber out of trees that were put into trash piles when they cleared the roads up here.
This is a sample, if I can get out of the vision. This is some of the wood that we were able to take out. That was when they were clearing roads and such, they just pushed it up into a pile and left it. This oak tree is one that we took down ourselves as we started clearing out the market garden. And this is going to wind up being the floor of our house, or part of it. Mm-hmm. There's a few other trash trees that are laying around that we are going to be able to salvage a lot of it for actual use in structural or art here on the ground. This is some other wood. Some of this was some that we were able to salvage from others. Some of it is stuff that we cut down ourselves. But for instance, this oak log right here has a lot of character to it. It's not going to be usable structurally for anything that's got to take a lot of weight, but we can use it as a post or something, or even for some form of artwork. But this is all lumber that we've milled and that we've got drying right now.
And that's part of that sustainable mindset. You look at, what you can recycle, what you can reuse. And there's a lot of wood that, you would just think that's absolutely just trash, and you wouldn't build with it. But I look at some of this stuff and I'm just like, this is absolutely gorgeous. And I've made jewelry pieces out of things that you would think you wouldn't even want to burn because, it's ugly. And being able to look at everything around you in a different light and what you can reuse. And it's absolutely satisfying, rewarding to be able to use what's growing around us.
So in that same vein, this is the backstop that we created out of some sawmill scraps that we're going to use. This is some of our clearing stuff that we haven't had an opportunity to chop up yet, but this is all going to wind up being mulch that is going to go into our garden. So yeah, we do try to use every aspect of everything that we take from the land down here.
That's great.
This is a filter that we're going to use to put the chipper in. And this is just kind of a meeting area that if we have to wind up expanding our home in the long term, this is where we're going to be. That's where we were sitting up there. Now, the market garden is where we're walking now. This is a clearing that we've had to cut out so we had access to get the truck down here so we could use some heavier stuff. And this is where a lot of it comes from. And I'm going to have to ask your forgiveness because the wind has decimated what we had going on down here before. But you can see these yellow flags on the ground ahead of us up here. And this is where we've staked out that we want the garden to be. It's we went over the elevations and figured out that this was like the relatively flattest area that we could get that had the most surface area. So we're going to put in raised beds down here. And there. So we've gone around and just staked it out. And it's approximately an acre in size, maybe 3/4 of an acre. But this is the stuff that we've cleared that we're going to wind up using. These are all going to be poles for projects that we've got coming up. This is all wood that's not necessarily good for using for any type of construction or anything, but it's definitely going to be useful for jewelry, or at the very least, something that we have to use to heat our home in winter. We don't let any of it go to waste, even the most smallest, scrubbiest trees. Victoria makes some beautiful jewelry racks out of some of these trees. So everything has got a use and a purpose. But then this is, area that we've cleared out for a gathering. This is a tarp that we were using to cover our firewood pile. Yes. So I don't know how well you can see it on the camera. Can you see flags down there at the end in front of us on the ground?
Can't make any out at the moment, but oh, there we go. Yep.
Okay. So that's the outer boundary of it on the west end. And all the way around this, right up here along this ridge, we are going to clear out so we have truck access to get deeper into it for the heavier work that we're going to have to do. But then our orchard is going to be built all the way around it, both fruit and nut. This is going to be largely vegetable, herb, and flower inside of the market garden. And then outside of it around it is going to be the fruit and nut orchard. And then down that way a little bit further, there's going to be a greenhouse where we'll be able to grow some citrus and other medicinal products in there that don't necessarily do well in our climate without help. So, but that's the tour of the top end, and that pretty much covers everything that we're going to, do through phase 2.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't even come close to the point where we can talk about, the barn and the cheese shop and the butcher shop and all of that stuff. That may wind up being up here at the top, or it may not. But I also just wanted to take you to one more place. This right here is the original path. You can see it kind of naturally stair-stepped its way up here. And this is the type of soil we have to work at. So one of the biggest challenges we're going to have is the fact that we've got to haul in or create the dirt to fill our raised beds, because it's just here in the forest, it's very difficult to have any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a little side project that Tori is super excited about. Okay. This is the treehouse location. So you can see that view out there is just absolutely glorious.
Yeah.
Excuse me, glorious. And we have that all the way around. You can start once the forest is thinned out a little bit. We've got a view starting there. That's looking to the northeast, almost exactly, to the north, to the northwest, to the west, to the southwest, to the south, and then back to the southeast. Depending on what things are like, we can see 270 degrees in every direction, and that's nothing more than our own soul being able to rejuvenate with the immensity of creation.
Everybody wants a tree house, right?
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
got so much awesome potential.
yes, absolutely. This relatively flat area that you can see down there about 50 feet in front of us, where you see this large oak tree right here, that's sitting kind of in a flat that runs along here. That's going to give us about a half-acre berry patch in total. So we'll be able to have berries and fruits and nuts and vegetables and meat and eggs and sausage and cheese. And so the long-term goal is that eventually we're going to be able to produce all of that ourselves. So we're not going to have to give up anything in the dietary nature. We will have plentiful food, and it will be fresh, delicious, and done by our own hand.
That's so awesome. I love all the plans you guys have. So much time and effort, but it's going to be so amazing.
Yeah, you know, we've put in a ton of effort into it already. It's all been, you know, the work of our backs and such.
Mhm.
But we're at a point now where we are going to be able to see and generate production from everything we do. We've gotten all the preliminaries out of the way. And I didn't take you down to the clubhouse, but it's just going to wind up being a storage facility now down in the pasture. I didn't mention that either. Out past the vision of where I showed you, like the market garden and the orchard, there's going to be probably a 15 to 20 foot section that's going to be maintained as forest. And then on the other side of that, it's going to get cleared out dramatically. And that's where we're going to raise the sheep after we fence it in.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
I am so impressed. I'm a little bit jealous, maybe. I don't like to feel that way or admit I feel that way, but you guys have some great things going on.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate so much the tour. Like I was literally like, you couldn't see me, but like I'm sitting here like leaning forward in my chair, just rapt attention, just watching what you were showing me. So I appreciate that tour so much.
Absolutely.
So Victoria, a few times you and Rex have mentioned your jewelry. Can you tell me more about that?
So, okay, I'll start here. My mother named me for my great grandmother, Ikimi. It's Japanese, it's a family name. So my name, Victoria Ikimi, means victorious, beautiful life. And in part of that, soul searching and purpose and why, part of my thing is to create a beautiful life. And what that means is much more than just like the aesthetic, the physical beauty of something. And so I've sort of carried that into everything that I work on. And while we've been out here working on the farm, we've found these pieces of wood, and you're probably familiar with them as like spalted wood. They have, crazy black lines and stuff through them. But what that is it's like a fungus. It's like the tree has been diseased. And, that's something that, I don't know, it kind of spoke to me to be able to see beauty out of pain, to take something that was dying, and to give it new life and to find beauty in that. And it's wood that would be burned or trashed, and to me it was just something so beautiful. And so I've made them into like pendant necklaces and earrings, and lots of different pieces of jewelry. And for me, that is just this amazing thing to be able to take something from nature that was dying and to repurpose and to highlight its beauty. So that's one of my projects that I've had to sort of put on the back burner while we build, the homestead and things like that. But that's somewhere that I feel that I really get to express myself and to be able to celebrate the beauty in not just nature, but in life in general. So
That's beautiful. As you're talking, it made me think of, you mentioned some Japanese ancestry there. It made me think, as you're talking, of the Japanese art of kintsugi. I'm probably
yes,
pronouncing that wrong. But it almost feels like you're taking, rather than, the bowls or the vases or whatever that, um, that are broken, that they're repairing with gold. It's almost like you're doing that with nature and with the life of the trees and things.
yes, yes, I absolutely.
That is a beautiful thing. I am enjoying talking with you guys so much. Like, this has just been, um it's been educational, but it's also just lightened my heart, and it's just been such a pleasure, and I've enjoyed it so much.
Thank you. It is wonderful to get to share with kindred heart, to be able to talk about things that spark joy, not just for us, but for other people. And it is something that is so unifying, even with all the different perspectives on life and politics and whatnot. This joy and love that comes out of this love for nature is incredibly unifying and healing. And it's a beautiful thing to get to connect with like-minded people.
I It's kind of funny you're saying that, because I'm sitting there thinking, like, through part of the tour and stuff, like, I'm just thinking, you guys are so awesome. Like, I feel like I've made new friends today just talking with you. Like, I feel like I have new friends and I can call you two friends. Like, I know we've only talked for, well, actually, like an hour and a half now, but I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Thank
of
you very
course,
much.
I know you're up in the Pacific Northwest, but you're of course welcome to come out and visit. And we'd love to have you.
That would be awesome. Maybe if I'm out that way someday, I would love to do that.
Or well,
Um, um, we have been talking for quite a while, and I don't want to take your entire day. I know you guys have had the winds you're dealing with and things, and you probably have other things you need to take care of today to secure, your property and prepare an evening meal and things like that. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Um, but do you have any parting thoughts or counsel that you would share with people who are interested in being more self-sufficient and finding a more peaceful, kind of in tune life?
Find your why.
and go after it. Face your fear, internalize it, turn it over, look at it, and then set it aside and do it. Because if you cannot be happy, if you cannot be fulfilled in what you're doing, then it's not worth doing. Just surviving, just getting by isn't a goal. It's survival, and that's not pleasure, and that's not the point of life. The point of life is to be happy, to achieve, and to leave a better world behind than the one you entered. So yeah, everything that you feel about it is valid, but put that aside and just go forward. Keep moving forward. Don't give up.
Just don't be discouraged. I mean, it's okay to pause. It's okay to, have doubts. But don't give up, because it's worth it. And that whole idea of that 5x5, if it's not going to matter in 5 years, then don't spend more than 5 minutes worrying about it. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it's a pretty good measure. There have been a lot of things that have really stopped me in my tracks and just broken my heart. And I've had to take the time and be like, is this really going to matter 5 years from now? Does this add to the life that I want, or does it detract from it? And that's a good measure. It's a good way to figure out what I really need to devote my energy to. And so I would just really encourage people to look at themselves really, really hard, spend some time looking internally about what's really important to you, what you really want, and go for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, both of you. Rex and Victoria, I wish you so much success and happiness, and I just hope things go well as you're getting into spring and summer. I hope things go so well with finishing up your home and continuing to build your homestead. I wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, my pleasure. Absolutely. One more time, would you remind us where we can find you online and more information about what you guys are creating?
Absolutely. Find us at Liberty Mountain Farms on Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon, and it's Liberty Mountain Farms for all of them.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much. I cannot put fully into words the gratitude I have for what you shared with us today. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.